They can kill birds, mice, I don't care. But I love them. They're so cute. Yeah, they're so cute. Murder mittens.
Murder mittens, yeah. The claws. Hi, guys. Hello.
Yeah. You're so and it's very hot. Um, check it out.
Hi. Hi, Juju. So the news has been really slow lately. Genuinely incredibly slow. If I used to get like 80 to 100 something updates every day, now I get 20 to 40, and I will get 50 if I look at different news sources. Hi, Auntie. Hi, audio producer. So this is what I was trying to ask you. Audio producer, do you follow me on Instagram? And if you follow me on Instagram, is your profile picture neon green? Because there is a person from England who is an audio engineer who followed me a while ago, and I think that that might be you. That's what I was asking in the comments. I'm so happy to see you. Auntie, wherever you feel like it, but I do like having people on YouTube. So if you'd like to be on YouTube, I appreciate that. So hi, Kat. Hi, Kareen. Hi, Peter. Good to see everybody. I'm drinking my concoction today, which is something that my mom really likes to drink, and it's a grapefruit and mint water. Hi, Jen. And it's been really good. I mean, I really recommend it if you don't take SSRIs and if you need debloating and if you need, I don't know, just generally feel like you're doing something healthy for yourself that might not do anything but definitely won't hurt, unless you take SSRIs. Because then apparently they absorb quicker, and then yeah. And then basically they absorb quicker, and then the effects last less, or supposedly do. I don't know. I mean, I take SSRIs, and I'm definitely taking this day to drink this water because I really like it. And if my meds are not going to work for one day, then they're not going to work for one day. A very healthy decision here. And James, if you keep selling Vasid and hypoallergenic cats, I'm going to, well, I know where you live. I know where you live, James. Stop selling Vasilun cats. Also, even if they're hypoallergenic, there is no more, like, no, there is not going to be a cat living here. At this point, first of all, someone's going to need to take care of that cat. And I ain't signing up for that. Hi, Veronica. Hi, everybody. Oh, this is like not. Wait, it's supposed to be. Oh, it just doesn't show on camera, but it's blue. Keep doing it, James. You read that serotonin theory wrong. What's serotonin theory? No. Oh, well, that's what I was just told yesterday. That's what I was just told yesterday by multiple people on my live, so I figured I'd warn people against hi, Michael. I like to warn people against, things that could potentially hurt them. So proceed at your own risk. If you take SSRIs and you want to drink grapefruit water, it might not be the best idea. Might be, might not be, but whatever. I'm sorry. There is a comment on TikTok that says your parents were British. My parents they exist. They're both 54 years old. Thank you very much. Not anywhere near extinction, hopefully. And my parents are Ukrainian. They're not British, nor was anyone in my family British. Not that it'd be bad if they were, but they just weren't. SSRI blocks serotonin uptake. Depression is not caused by lack of serotonin. That's not what I was saying, though. I was saying that I was told yesterday on my live by multiple people that if I take SSRIs, which I do, prescribed. Oh, happy belated, and hi, Tim. Basically, if I was, that's what I was prescribed, that's what I take, and I just heard that if I do take SSRIs, then then grapefruit, the acid in the grapefruit makes it absorb faster, so it doesn't work all day. Like, as in, like, there is a release, right? There is a 24-hour release of the medication. So if you apparently, if you drink grapefruit juice, the acid in it makes the medication less because it absorbs faster. So that's all I was saying. But yeah, I take SSRIs. That's all it is. Hi, Beth. So yeah, but I really don't care for the one day because I just really want my grapefruit water. Because I like my grapefruit water. Okay. Thank you. So there haven't been a lot of updates, really. Today there are 24 actually. 24, wow, so 2 new updates. It's been very slow in terms of updates. I don't necessarily know why it has been so slow. I guess it's good and bad at the same time because, well, less updates mean that less crazy stuff is happening. Also, I'm not really surprised that things are slowing down a little because realistically, Ukraine is launching a huge counteroffensive. And Ukraine is launching a huge counteroffensive, and Russia doesn't have resources to attack Ukraine nearly as much as they did before. So the news are going to slow down. Because realistically, Ukraine is going to continue striking at Russian air bases, and Russia is going to continue using whatever resources they have left onto Ukrainian cities, but not nearly with the same magnitude as they did before, because, well, they can't. So basically, there is like less to report on. Євгенія Лень. Добрий день від Одеситів у Румунії. Добрий день. Привіт. So yeah, but I found a very interesting thing yesterday. So I have deep dove into a TikTok rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole is Kuban. So I found a video from this presumably Russian, maybe Russian-speaking Ukrainian. I'm confused by the foreign battalion being told to leave without the correct paperwork. I'm not sure what you're talking about. You can elaborate on it and I'll try to respond, but let me finish what I was going to say first, and then I will address all of the comments. But so basically, I was in like the TikTok rabbit hole of discovering things. Hi, Tammy. And I came across this. You're not going to like it, but try it short. Just like try a little bit before you, because I know you're not going to like it. Oh, no, Hirka.
Yeah. Є м'ята, тобто не м'ята.
Це м'ята.
Okay.
Anyways, so basically, I found this video of a presumably Russian, maybe a Russian-speaking Ukrainian musician who wrote this song called Vstavai Kuban. And it's basically, so if you don't know anything about Kuban, Kuban was a territory where Cossacks from Ukraine were sent off, and Kuban was in the territory of Ukraine as of 1990, basically. And it was then annexed to Russia, and now it's the territory of Russia. But 20% of people who live in Kuban speak Ukrainian still, just Ukrainian, and some of them also speak Russian. But so just Ukrainian is 20%. So those are people who do not speak Russian. They live in Russia, they live in Kuban, they speak just Ukrainian, and then some of them speak both Ukrainian and Russian, and some of them speak just Russian. And so this guy wrote a song that was basically like an anthem for Kuban to rise up and to separate themselves from Russia as a republic. And the more I started using this sound, the deeper down the rabbit hole I started going, because it turns out that a lot of people, hi Mariana, have put out videos to that song that and they are showing their geolocation as in Kuban, and they're saying Kuban se Ukraina, and they're saying, yes, we are against Russia, yes, we are pro-Kuban joining Ukraine, which is a very, hi Ursula, hi Jenny, which is a very interesting narrative. Because while Ukraine is not like trying to get Kuban back, I mean, I digress, but so we're going to discuss all of that. We're going to discuss all of that in a second. But Kuban has created their own branch of OUN, which is the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. And they created their own UPA, which is the Ukrainian Insurgent Army. And that Ukrainian insurgent army in Kuban, which, mind you, those are not like Ukrainian immigrants to Russia. Those are people who have been living there. They're like descendants of Cossacks. It's been like generations. They live in Kuban. So it's not like Ukrainian immigrants or anything like that. It is native. It is people native to Kuban for like centuries. And so, it's a resistance movement. But the reason why it's so significant that they called it the Ukrainian, the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, and the army is called the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, is because that was the army of Stepan Bandera. And the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists was the organization operating in Western Ukraine in order to free Western Ukraine from Russian and Polish influences, and from Germans as well. And so it is like it's a very like nationalistic, it's a nationalistic organization, very well known in Ukraine. That's like part of our history. And this is where like all of the this is what Russians call like Nazis and Banderovites. So Bandera was like the head of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. And then he was also at some point the head of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army. So it's very interesting that they chose to call it specifically that. And also they recorded a video address to President Putin saying that their ranks are growing and that they are planning on overthrowing the Russian government in Kuban area, and they're planning on separating into the Kuban People's Republic. Which is funny because this is an actual movement of actual people within Kuban that want separation from Russia. And it's not like Ukrainians came in and started organizing some weird stuff, because they said that they want to overthrow the Russian government in the name of Ukraine, which I will talk about problems with that in a second. But they quite literally want to be Kuban People's Republic in where in Russia is this? I'll show you on a map in a second. So basically, they want to be Kuban Kuban People's Republic, but within Ukraine, which is thank you, Cherokee Native. So basically, they want to be Kuban People's Republic within Ukraine. Yeah, literally giving Russia a taste of their own medicine. So Kuban is where Krasnodar is. I'll show you on a map in a second. Kuban is where Cossacks from Zaporizhia were sent off to, basically, during like the mass murders of like Cossacks. Kuban, Krasnodarsky Krai. So this is Kuban. This is Crimea for reference. Crimea, Kuban, over there. See? So this is like you could get there using Kerch Bridge. So here are a couple of issues with that. First of all, if they want to separate, I absolutely and wholeheartedly support them. If they want to be Kuban People's Republic, sure, that's totally fine. If they want to be within Ukraine, they should just move to Ukraine, because here is the problem that it poses. We are a European nation ascending to Europe. Heroям слава. We are not trying to annex any Russian territories. We're not going to help Kuban annex itself from Russia, because that way we're entering a conflict provoked by us with Russia. So we're not going to be returning Kuban. The people of Kuban, if they want to live in Ukraine, they're welcome to come to Ukraine. If they show their ancestry, they'll be granted a citizenship, right? Now, if we're going to be having like this situation, then all of the nations in the world will have to, all of the like important nations in the world will have to recognize Kuban as part of Ukraine, which most people won't, because it's not necessarily like legal. So if Kuban ever wants to be an independent republic within Ukraine, then they will have to be independent first as a republic, and then negotiate to join Ukraine with our government. As in, like, they have to be internationally acknowledged as a separate entity, and they have to be, then they can negotiate being like a part of Ukraine, or having partnership with Ukraine, or being under Ukrainian legislation as like an autonomous republic or something like that. But while it's all good and fun, and it's like a hilarious situation that Russians are being taught a lesson, right? It doesn't necessarily work, because that would severely impede our accession to you, and because, thank you, Corinne, and because genuinely we're not interested in annexing anything. Like, again, it's really nice that there are descendants of Cossacks that are willing to fight for them being Ukrainian, and that think that like they should be back in Ukraine, and that don't want to be a part of Russia, but indeed do consider themselves and the region ethnically Ukrainian, which it was, and like want to be back into Ukraine. But the thing is, like, that would have to be renewing borders of 1919. And if we were to be like, oh yeah, Kuban is Ukraine, then we would be no better than Russia, right? Because there are also, first of all, if we do that, that means that there are going to be a lot of Russians that do live in Kuban, that have been living there before like the Cossacks were like basically sent over there. They will come as a package deal, right? So like we will have to have Russians living on the territory of Ukraine, and we're going to have to grant them citizenships, which is like not going to happen. We're not going to deport them, because that is actually inhumane, and we're not inhumane. You know, we're not going to be deporting people from their homes. So that's another problem. And yeah, so there's just like a lot of really big conflicts in like annexing territories, or like in joining anything oh, actually, wait, mic is covered, yes, but I had where did I put it? I brought my microphone here, and I don't know what I did with it, because wait, I brought one second. I brought my microphone here specifically to use it, and I don't know where I put it. So annoying. Привіт, Ontario. Дякую. But so yeah, basically, it poses a lot of difficulties and a lot of issues that wouldn't necessarily benefit anybody, right? And as much as like, yes, Kuban is ethnically Ukrainian, and yes, there are ancestors of Zaporizhian Cossacks living there, and yes, we do consider them Ukrainian, and yes, we would love to see them in Ukraine, and we would love to, like, you know, as in like we don't think that they're like, oh, Russianized Ukrainians, or we don't want to see them within our country. No, that's not the narrative at all. But unfortunately, the reality is that if they want to ever join Ukraine, then they're going to have to succeed in being completely independent first, and then negotiating in joining Ukraine as an independent republic, because Ukraine is not going to risk our accession to EU in order to like get some territory, you know. And again, the Ukrainians in Kuban that want to be independent from Russia and want to live in Ukraine are welcome to come live in Ukraine. Which is not to say Donetsk is showed in Russia? No. On Google Maps? Let me see. No, Donetsk Oblast, Ukraine. It's not showed in Russia. It's shown in Ukraine. It's probably a bug. I was like, excuse me. But yeah, no. So, but also that is not to say that resistance in Kuban is not welcome, because that will give Russia a taste of their own medicine. And, well, Ukraine had nothing to do with it. And there are actually people living there that want to be independent from Russia. And that might actually give a push to all of the other Russian republics to try and go for their own independence, like, you know, Dagestan, like Yakutia, like Buryatia, like all of these places. Yeah. Canada. So yeah. So that's a very, 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 very interesting thing. And let me show you. There is like a whole TikTok account on about Kuban wanting to be Ukraine and Kuban being Ukrainian. It's very interesting. It was like called Kuban. Yeah, Kuban Republic. Well, it's called Kuban Republic, which is very cute. But they made a flag that's basically, so the flag is Kuban People's Republic, and it's like the colors of Cossacks, like clothes and garments, and it has a Ukrainian trident on it. It's fascinating, honestly. Well, this is like a bit of a better design, as in like this is more professional, I would say, than the previous one. But yeah, they have like a whole design. They have like a whole thing where it's Kuban is Ukraine. Then the interesting thing is, like, people have been asking, can you show on Google Maps that you're actually in the Russian Federation? Because we kind of believe it and kind of don't believe it. And so this person shows on Google Maps where they actually are. Wait. Yeah, so they are literally in Russia. Here. Yeah, she's quite crazy. Was Kuban part of Ukraine? Yeah, Kuban used to be in 1919. Like, this is what a map of Ukraine. 1 second. Yeah, it's just where like the Cossacks were sent over to. So this is what a map of Ukraine used to look like. We had Kuban, we had like Donshchina, all of these things. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it should be. I'm just saying that that was like back in the day. It used to be a part of Ukraine, yes. But that's the whole gag about it, is that is that people in Kuban are now organizing national resistance movements, and they want to be in Ukraine. Well, Carlos, I don't know if Kuban would be a great addition, because again, like, Ukraine is not interested in like annexing any territories, nor are we interested in like any territories. We're interested in just like Russia leaving us alone, and we're interested in keeping our people safe. We're interested in our territories, like the internationally recognized territories of Ukraine. It's the same as like, I don't know. At that point, like, if we were to go by the map of 1919, if we were to go by the map of 19, then have to reorganize the entirety of Europe, and some countries would have to cease to exist. So yeah. Guys, let me go find my microphone, because I did bring it here. I don't know where I put it or where it went, but I would really like to have it back, because I want to put my phone like this, not like that. And you are not going to hear me if my phone is like not slanted. But it, like, my little graphic design self is really not happy with the microphone being slanted. Oh, I mean the phone being slanted. Where did I put this stupid microphone? So I prepared it. I just didn't bring it. I also was gonna say that I'm recently having an obsession with all things blue and yellow when it comes to accessories. Basically, this was on huge sale and was like $20, and I bought it because it's yellow, and so I've been getting the mug. Oh, so it's actually a very fun mug. I forgot what the name of the company is. I will look it up for you, but it's made from coffee waste. So it's a mug made out of coffee waste. Yeah, Viziano Dodono, yeah. Blue and yellow. Well, I'm like I don't like colors really. Like, I wear a lot, you guys see it. Like, I wear mostly beige and white. Also, hi, Sherry. But yeah, I basically, hi, Matthew. But yeah, I basically do this. And the eyeshadow, Lauren, is it's like, it's this thing, I don't even know where it's from. It's like some new person. My mom got it for me. It's some like new makeup person that we saw at Sephora, and I don't know, she just has all of these like super like iridescent / metallic things, and they're really nice, because this one is like, it's stuck. That's it. Like, it's not moving. Well, I'm venturing to color and accessories, and that's just because I want to have things that are like blue and yellow. Like, I want to put a little blue sticker on this, so it's blue and yellow. And I also have and also because like my other case, so I wear my keys on my AirPods, because that way I don't forget my keys, and that way I don't forget my AirPods. So like this has been, I can link it, Kay. It's actually in a huge sale too. But basically, like, yeah, I only shop sales, if you guys noticed. But basically this has been like the thing, but I've gained more keys over the last like 2 years, and the case that I have it has like a thing like this, so it doesn't fit the keys anymore. And so I saw this because it had like a whole thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can also tie it in my bag, and that way I don't have to like search my bag for keys anyways, like my ADHD logic is gonna bore you. But yes, and also I ordered like covers for my AirPods, for my for my over-the-head headphones that are blue, that are yellow, so they'll be blue and yellow too. And also, anytime I say blue and yellow, the song Black and Yellow, Black and Yellow, Black and Yellow plays in my head, and I'm just like blue and yellow, blue and yellow, blue and yellow. But yeah. So yeah. Cześć, się masz. Dobrze. Sorry, I was like getting a phone call from an unknown number. New York. Weird. 1 second, let me check something really quick. ADHD, oh yes. Lots of ADHD. So ADHD, a ton of ADHD, like more ADHD than anybody needs ADHD. How has your friendship with Russians here in the US changed? I don't have Russian friends in the US. I actually had a very limited amount of Eastern European friends to begin with in the United States. Most of my friends are either European or American, or like, you know, vaguely mixed American first generation immigrants. But yeah, like I've never really been drawn to Eastern Europe. And also like, I've never really been friends with Russians. I had one Russian boyfriend my like freshman year of college who had absolutely ruined who have absolutely ruined like the entirety of Russians for me forever, because he was just crazy and quite literally tried to break down my door at 3 a.m. when I broke up with him. And I understand that he doesn't speak for the entirety of the Russian people, but for me, that was it. I also like hung out with some of his friends, and they're all from like Brighton Beach, and it was just like not my vibe. So yeah, and the only reason I guess like that we were dating when we were is because like I was new to the United States. I didn't have a lot of friends. Like I met him. That was about it. It just like flowed like that. But basically like he wouldn't let me have friends. He wouldn't let me have guy friends, especially. He like installed my text messages onto his iMessage on his computer. So if people texted me, he would like know about it and not tell me. He like broke into my Facebook. It was like, he was just like a very controlling, like crazy, insane, machismo, like gaslighting, emotionally abusive man. And, but culturally there was this like thing where, you know, he was a Russian dude. Therefore, like, even if I had, so like, since I was a woman, there was no way on earth I would ever be right. Like genuinely, it's like he always had to have like the last word, and he always had to be like dominant and stuff like that. And I'm not that kind of person. Like that had never happened to me in Ukraine, because like Russian family order is very different than like American family, then Russian family order is very different than Ukrainian family order. And I grew up, I grew up in a very like matriarchal household. So like everybody was a strong woman, and nobody would ever let a man like dictate them what to do. So for me, that just simply didn't work. And to be fair, like I was in a very like crappy place in life at that point in my life, as in like, it's hard to manipulate me in general, but like he had succeeded for a very long time because I was just very vulnerable at that point. Like I was alone, I was in New York, I was young, like I was 17 or 18 years old. And so that was like a prime moment. But honestly, that like repelled me from ever having any like Russian friends to begin with. Also, I don't know. From then on, basically, it's like, well, so first of all, we're gonna get into news in like 10 minutes, but I'm gonna finish the story because also it'll like lead to something that I think is important to say, other than just like toxic boyfriends and stuff like that. But for me, first of all, the way that I realized what was happening was I was sitting in a psychology class, and it was psych of human sexuality. I have a bachelor's in psych. It was Psych of Human Sexuality, and we were talking about emotionally abusive relationships, and there are 10 things on the wheel, on the spectrum, that make a relationship emotionally abusive, and you have to qualify for 5 out of 10 for it to be emotionally abusive, basically. And I was reading these things, and he qualified for all of them. And I realized, oh, well, that's fun. So from then on, like, it basically went downhill, and it's a very long story that I don't necessarily want to tell on the internet, but yeah. But if it wasn't for that, I would have not been who I am, and I would have not taken any shit in relationships afterwards, because after that, I wouldn't let anybody mistreat me in any way. The second that there was something that I knew was not working for me, you were gone, like that. I had no patience for anything. I had no patience for like mommying anybody, for babysitting anybody, for letting people abuse me, for letting people like tell me what to do, for letting people what I should be feeling or what I should not be feeling. I was literally like, no, I'm sorry, but abso-fucking-lutely not. So that did teach me a very good lesson that I probably would not have known, and wasted a lot more time on a lot more shitty people if I hadn't been in that situation, unless that situation was really traumatic at that time. But I met a lot of the friends of this guy while we were dating, because I think it was like a year and 8 months at least that we were together. And they were all like Russian or Russian descendants from Brighton Beach. And that mentality was, you know, I thought that Russians and Ukrainians are semi-what similar while growing up in Ukraine in a Russian-speaking family, because the only like access to Russians that I had was like my Russian-speaking family, right? So I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, they're normal people. And then I met this dude, and I met a lot of Russians through him, and I realized that no, absolutely not. We're not in any way similar, not in any way. Because I just saw like the family order, the mentality, the things that are like normal, the kind of like things that the jokes that are fine for them, things like that, you know? And I was just like, wow, this is really not anything that I ever want to be a part of. Except at that point, I didn't realize that it was like the Russian mentality. I thought maybe like it's the Brighton Beach mentality, or maybe it's like, oh, the Russian immigrant mentality or something like that. But the more Russians I met, the more Russians I met, the more I understood that no, this is not about you being an immigrant. This is not about you living in Brighton Beach, which is like such a shithole. This is not about you like having Soviet mentality. This is about you being Russian and the things that are normal in Russia. And so my relationships with my Russian friends didn't change at all since the beginning of the war, because I didn't have Russian friends, and I don't have Russian friends, basically. Like, that's basically what it is. I can count on my fingers the amount of Russian people that I generally ever like had like a relationship with past like, oh, hi, how are you? And they all date to pre me moving here. So I have no issue with my Russian friends since the beginning of the war, because I have none and I had none. Like, but yeah, that's me. It's like hard to explain it, but like genuinely, I've never, ever been drawn. Привіт, привіт, привіт. Привіт, дуже приємно. But yeah, I've never been really drawn to like Eastern Europeans in general. And well, I haven't met a lot of Ukrainians here. And actually, I wanted to tell a personal story. I was gonna record a YouTube video about it because it's kind of long, and like there's a lot of thoughts that I have about it, and I'm gonna like try to do it in the coming days. I'm gonna try to do it in the coming days, but you know, at some point in my life, I want to say up until 2014, I didn't necessarily like Russian mentality. I didn't like Russians, right, as we had just discovered. But again, I grew up in a partially Russian-speaking family in Lviv. My dad's Ukrainian speaking, my mom is Russian speaking. And so my dad's family is Ukrainian speaking and my mom's family is Russian speaking. It so happens that I'm much closer to my mom's family, but I've always spoken Ukrainian with my friends. I've always spoken Ukrainian with my father. Ukrainian is my primary language and I've always spoken it more than Russian. So don't get that twisted. But my only, but my only point of reference towards like Russians and Russian mentality was my grandparents who migrated from Russia when they were 3 and 4 respectively. Okay, so for me, like Russian mentality and Russia were not great. I never wanted to have anything in common with it, right? But as in like, I didn't think that it was something like worth absolutely despising. Like I knew history, I knew they weren't great, right? But as in like, I didn't realize it took me a while to come to terms with the fact that this is not history, it's the present. I vividly remember I had one Ukrainian friend here. I went to elementary school with her and then she moved to the United States, I think in like 3rd grade or 4th grade permanently. And then we became friends when I moved here first because, well, like, that was my only person that I knew in New York, period. And we like got really close and we were very close friends. And there was a protest at the Ukrainian embassy in New York that her and I were going to, and her friends who were all from Plast, which is like the Ukrainian organization of Boy and Girl Scouts. Ніколи не втомлюся. Я не розумію, як можна втомитися від війни. But basically, where was it? I'm sorry, I got distracted for a second. But we went to that protest and there were her friends who were all like part of Plast, which is the Ukrainian Boys and Girl Scouts organization. Yes. And I know about Plast, you know, like it's a pretty nationalistic organization. Like some of my classmates in Ukraine were part of Plast, and I just remember they were like hiking a lot and they were all very like, don't speak. Like I remember them being like, oh, like I would use a word and it'd be like a Russified word or something like that. And they would be like, no, that's a Russified word. You have to say this. And it's just like, you know, as a kid, you were like, oh my gosh, it's so annoying. So that's what I remember from Blast, but that's like basically it. I remember they hiked a lot. I know that they had like really good survival skills. I knew that they knew history of Ukraine really well because it was taught there, but like I didn't know as like a huge, you know, like what actually happens in Plus, right? And so I met with Sophia and her friend. His name is Danilo, and he is a like 7th generation of Ukrainians in the United States. So 7th generation of Ukrainians in the United States. He fluently speaks Ukrainian, although his Ukrainian is ancient. I mean, like some of the words that he uses, I've never even heard, like genuinely. But he's part of Ukrainian diaspora and he is a 7th generation Ukrainian. So naturally, like a lot of Ukrainians who are diaspora, he goes, he went to Plus. And yeah, and he went to Plus, and in Plus they were teaching them Ukrainian history. And because these generations of Ukrainians fled so long ago to the United States, that their history of Ukraine is Russia is a genocidal aggressor who's killing us, repressing us, and murdering Cossacks. So in Plus, in the United States, they pretty much teach Ukrainian kids to hate Russia. Not blatantly, as in like, oh, you should hate Russia, but they tell them history very, very, very vividly and very, very, very much so as what was happening when their parents and grandparents and great-grandparents fled Ukraine. Because that's pretty much why they fled Ukraine, because of the repressions, the murders of Cossacks, the genocides, the Holodomors, all of this stuff, right? So inadvertently, these kids despise Russia because they know reality without the same thing as like I do, where I'm like, oh, but modern Russians might be civilized, right? And they're like, no, they're not. So I remember meeting these kids and we went and we all like after the protest, after the protest, we all went to like a cafe, we went to a diner, and we were like getting some, I don't know, tea and like whatever, and we were like getting acquainted and stuff like that. And I started talking to this Danilo guy, and he asked me where I was from, and I said Lviv, like Sofia, and we started like having a conversation, and I mentioned offhandedly that my mom is Russian speaking and that her parents came from Russia. And he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, so you're half Russian then?" And I was like, "Well, no, I am Ukrainian. My mom grew up in Ukraine. I grew up in Ukraine. I identify as Ukrainian and stuff like that." And he was trying to explain to me, he was like, you know, like as in like they were very kind of like cold and sort of like guarded. And I remember thinking like, holy shit, like you guys hate Russia. Like, you know, Russia's not the problem. Like, oh my gosh, they're not doing anything to us, right? Which, boy, how I was wrong. Because they actually saw what Russia is doing, and they actually saw the repression of Ukrainians. They actually saw what's happening in the government because they were not in the country and they were not like exposed to it on a daily basis to like sort of see, to not see through it, right? And he said something like that, and he was like, well, you know, it's not to say anything about you, but you saying that like hating Russia is crazy is like, he's like, your grandparents are part of the mass migration of Russians into Lviv, which is how Russian language even came to Lviv to begin with. Well, not really. He definitely did spend less time in Ukraine, but his view of Russia was that view of the colonization, was that view of the genocides, that view of Holodomors, that view of parents who were eating dirt, that view of like repressions, that view of generations back that we in modern Ukraine forgot. So that was his view of Russia. As in like Russia never stopped being an aggressor. His view of Russia was that Russia never stopped being an aggressor, and Russia is still doing the same things in the plain sight. We are just not seeing them. And honestly, at that point, I thought he was fucking crazy. I remember looking at this kid and being like, okay, well, I'll never see you again. You're insane. Cool. But looking back at it, it's like they were right. Like they were genuinely very, very right about what Russia is and why they absolutely despise it, why they don't want to have Russian friends, why they don't want to speak to anyone who's Russian speaking, why they don't want to perpetuate the whole like brotherly nations, you know, as in like, he was like, I don't, like if I find out someone's Russian, I don't want to be friends with them. And I genuinely remember sitting there and being like, you are nuts. Like you're nuts. And he's like, no, I'm not nuts. Like there is this like mixing of Russians and Ukrainians into one nation. And it comes from like, oh, you know, a Ukrainian kid dating a Russian girl or like a Russian kid dating a Ukrainian girl. And then we have like these kids and then the whole world is like, oh, but you are brotherly nations. And he's like, we're not brotherly nations. There's a huge issue here. There is an aggressor and there is a victim. And for that time, it was like a very extreme view. And genuinely, again, I thought the kid was insane. I thought he was crazy. I just remember sitting there being like, you good? But turns out that they were right. And one of the reasons why I now appreciate Plot, because they don't let Ukrainian kids, I don't think they teach Ukrainian kids to hate Russia. I think what they do is they don't let Ukrainian kids forget the history. I think they don't let Ukrainian kids forget what happened. And then these kids can make their own conclusions, you know? Hi, Nanny Ria. And so, yeah, that might be viewed as something like, as a very extremist view or something like that. But in reality, like, they're right. You don't look so smart. What is smart supposed to look? As far as I'm concerned, people sound smart. People are smart. People, you know, look smart. I don't know. Well, what does smart look like? The Russian trolls. The idiotic things they say because they've run out of, because they've run out of better insults, pretty much. Yeah, he was talking from an ethnic Ukrainian point of view, exactly. That's like the thing where, you know, 7th generation Ukrainian, that's like at least a couple hundred years, you know? Yeah. And it's interesting because the way that they speak Ukrainian, like their Ukrainian speech, their patterns of speech, their words, like some of these words I've never heard before. As in like they're like ancient Ukrainian. But that's what I was saying, you know, as in like to them it's still fresh, to them it's wounds, to them like this is what they fled, this is what they run away from. My gosh, so many cousins believe Russian propaganda, honestly. Watching. Thank you, Karine. Померти поб'ємося з ворогом, так? Okay, so 15 minutes into it, let's do the news. I wish Nazar was here to recommend a song. Let me see if he's still active in the chat or he's sleeping, because he likes to recommend songs. And the one thing that I know he's very good at is recommending songs, which, you know, I hate giving Nazar credit for something because he takes it so personally. But I wonder if he's here, and I wonder if he can give me a song. Nice. Dude 789 is Latvian and, well, with Odessa background, I believe. Oh, no, wait. No, sorry. No, sorry. So I am brain fried. I thought that you missed. Yulia is not calling you out. Yulia thought that you were asking about Danik, and I was like, he's Latvian for a second, but no. Okay, I'm gonna let Carlos take it over before I just, you know. But also no. The answer to your question is no. Okay. Na tvoya vina, sure. I mean, I just usually try to put on songs that I haven't heard yet and that you guys might have not heard yet. But you got a song, okay. Is it a Ukrainian song? Because we only discover Ukrainian music before news streams. But if it's a Ukrainian song, I'm glad to, I'll let you, yeah, give me. Give me all your songs. Dear Gemini by Eddie. I'm curious, but, well, Danik was first, so I can save this for later. But, and Leo. Oh, Insha Lubov. Yeah, we've played this before, but I like this song, so we're gonna do this again. And in the meanwhile, I'll find...
Прогулятися без людей, та холодно так тут, я не знаю, де шукаю своїх квіт у твоєму вікні, та не ростуть спони, як тієї весни. І хочу цілувати, щоб все було окей, я так втомився від з іншими ночей.
New York? Interesting.
Дай снов и снов, до слез и все же
Yeah, a lot of them are brainwashed.
Ищу любовь, слезы все же
Shumya.
Ищу любовь,
It's good. Green tea is green. I love that. How was your day? Thank you. Thank you.
Якщо тебе хтось образить, оголю кулаки, тебе не ламалися надто багато разів, тому я буду кричати до біса.
Yeah, любов is love. Привіт, Ізраїль. Привіт, Ізраїль. Привіт, Ізраїль.
Написав тобі пісню, будь наші слова.
I know the English version of this song, but I don't know the lyrics to this one, so I'm not even going to try to sing it because I'm going to screw it up.
Хочу твою любов, та сльози всі вже пролито. Найшу любов, ішу любов, сльози всі вже пролито. Найшу любов, ішу любов, сльози всі вже пролито. Найшу любов, ішу любов, сльози всі вже пролито.
I absolutely love Russian trolls pretending to be Ukrainian. Tima Klaus. Where in Ukraine are you from? Where in Ukraine are you from? Why are we toxic? Enlighten me. He said it like 10 times already. He says Ukrainians are toxic. And he says he's Ukrainian. Thank you, Alexander.
Іншу любов, на іншу любов, сльози всі вже пролито.
No, we're not on Russia one again. Thank God. Thank you, Naniria. Oh, he just said Ternopil. I'm very curious as to what's toxic about us Ukrainians. Dear Gemini by Eddie, that's my friend. Is he Ukrainian? Is that Ukrainian music? Да. Є таке. Yeah. Well, James. Yeah, see, well, so what we do in these streams is we discover a new Ukrainian song every day. That's why. But I do wish luck to your friend Eddie and his song Dear Gemini. No worries. Thank you. Thank you for the rose. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. Thank you. This song's title is Polisia, and you can find, if you go into my link in bio, if you scroll all the way down, my playlist on Spotify is linked, and I put new Ukrainian song in there every day. So everything we listen to on streams is going to inevitably end up in the playlist, and it's already there. Thank you. This is the first time I hear this song and I really like it. I loved it. It was a really good song. Я зі Львова. Привіт, Київ. Привіт. See, this is why I also like doing streams earlier, because I feel like a lot more, well, I don't feel like, I know that a lot more Ukrainians are awake because it's only 10 p.m. as opposed to like 4 in the morning. Sky, it's in my playlist. Thank you, Karine. But basically more Ukrainians are awake, so I feel like a lot more Ukrainians see my news streams and I get to see a lot more Ukrainians, and then there are a lot more Ukrainians on the news streams and I love seeing more Ukrainians. So this really works. Kat, so we do one song per stream. We could do a little more and hang out later, but I need to get to the news because it's been an hour and 43 seconds precisely and I still haven't started a single update. I have only been talking about Kuban. Hi, nice to meet you too. I have been talking about Kuban so far and how they have, so to всі мої українці, I don't know if you've heard it, but I will let you know. Oh, also guys, if you're Ukrainian or not Ukrainian, well, most likely Ukrainian because non-Ukrainians usually tend to know more of like the popular songs that we've already played, but if you if you would like to give me suggestions for Ukrainian songs to play, please DM me on Instagram and I'll play them the next stream. I can do, like, if I get a lot of suggestions, I'll do 2 to 3 songs per stream. I do need suggestions, and my only point of contention is Nazar at this point. He's like always giving me the songs. But if you guys want to give me suggestions, please follow me on Instagram. It's the same as this, and send me suggestions because I would love to hear them all. But to all of my Ukrainians over here, if you missed it in the beginning of the stream, but basically yesterday I deep dove into a rabbit hole called Кубанська Українська повстанська армія and Кубанська організація українських націоналістів. Take it as you will, but Kuban now has UPA. Kuban has a flag. Kuban has a flag that's like this colorful thing, and it has a Cossack on it, a lion, and a Ukrainian trident. And they want to be Кубанська Народна Республіка в складі України. And that would all be like, oh, interesting, right? Except their UPA, which is the Ukrainian Insurgents Army, had put out a recorded message to the Russian authorities. Saying that they're going to go after the Russian regional administration and they're going to overthrow them because they want to be a part of Ukraine, which is kind of, well, I mean, it's not going to happen. They're not going to be a part of Ukraine because of a plethora of different reasons that are mostly like political, geopolitical, and humanitarian. But it's just kind of like funny because Russia is getting a taste of their own medicine. Okay, so a video of Ukrainian military training under the guidance of British instructors was published by the British Ministry of Defense, and I am going to show you what that looks like. Ну, їм спочатку треба стати незалежними, а потім вони можуть домовитися з українським урядом, але ми не можемо їм допомагати, тому що тоді ми будемо в конфлікті з Росією, і це не наша провокація. Я не знала, що ви були весь цей час тут. Приємно познайомитись. Okay, in the temporarily occupied Kherson, representatives of the so-called administration encourage ambulance workers to write statements of consent to work with the new government. According to the GUR, the statement that the health workers will write also implies an agreement to receive wages in Russian rubles. In case of refusal, employees are provided with a temporary work permit with a warning about possible dismissal at any time. So they're being coerced into signing the agreements with Russians, and they're being coerced into agreeing to get their salaries in Russian rubles. Heroyam slava. Russian military command flees from Kherson. The Russian military command really left Kherson. Most of them have already left Kherson. There is information about this, said Yuri Sobolevsky, first deputy chairman of the Kherson Regional Council. Живі Білорусь. Дякую за підтримку білоруських громадян, не білоруського вашого прекрасного диктатора. Але я вам бажаю звільнення від вашого жахливого режиму також. І я сподіваюся, що вільна Україна і вільна Білорусь колись будуть разом пити каву. Aftermath of shelling in Bakhmut. Eyewitnesses report about 90 shells hit the town within an hour. 90 shells. Живи Belarus means live long Belarus. А можна ще так, щоб вони гнили разом в обнімочку. Bakhmut. So this is an aftermath of shelling in Bakhmut. Eyewitnesses, again, are reporting 90 shells hit the town in 1 hour. 90 shells an hour. Also, let me remind you that over 200 missiles have struck Afghanistan in 8 years of war versus over 3,000 missiles that have struck Ukraine within 6 months of war. Hi, Luann. Daily demilitarization results. Tokmak, Zaporizhia region, -1 base of the Russian invaders. Popasna, Luhansk region, -1 base of the Russian invaders. Borislavsky district, Kherson region, -1 ammo depot. The enemy suffered the greatest losses in the Donetsk direction. Other hot results of the week: destroyed ammo depots and invader bases. In just a week, the Russians lost 22 ammunition depots, 10 bases, 3 headquarters, and 1 barracks. Also, hey guys, so I wanted to point something out. Here is the thing. So you know how Russians, anytime they talk about Ukrainians who don't want to respond in Russian to them, even though they speak Russian? So let me give you a great example of 2 nations that do not speak each other's language, but understand each other anyway because we respect each other. So there is a Belarusian, I would assume, I don't know if guy or girl, if you're a guy or a girl, but there is a Belarusian person on this stream. They're speaking Belarusian and I'm speaking to them in Ukrainian. Both of us speak Russian. Neither one of us wants to speak it. Yes, there are things that we have to read and guess. There are things that we have to listen and guess. But neither one of us is demanding from each other to speak Russian to each other to better understand each other, right? Do you see the difference between how Russia is and how other Eastern European nations are? It's very simple. That's called respect to each other. It's like if Russians don't freaking speak Ukrainian, what they can do is they can just work their brain, read it a little bit, and try to figure it out. Because they could. They just don't want to. And they're always like, oh, Ukrainians respond to us in Ukrainian, even though they full well know that we don't speak Ukrainian. Okay, cool. Well, we're Ukrainian. We're not Russian. We're not obliged to speak to you in Russian. I understand Belarusian if it's written. It's harder for me to understand Belarusian if it's spoken. Like if someone speaks Belarusian to me, especially at like a normal tone and a normal pace at which a person is speaking their language, I get lost very often. If I read it then I can like process it and then I understand Belarusian. And I'm sure that it's the same from Belarusians to Ukrainians, because Belarusian and Ukrainian are much more similar than Russian and Ukrainian or Belarusian and Russian. Thank you, Rainbow. But yeah, I can understand. There are some words. Oh, wait a second, Cindy. Cindy, no. You can't eat your bone on top of the couch. 1 second. I'll be back. Cindy, no. Baby. Baby, I know, baby. No, here. You gotta eat your bone over there. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. Cindy has like a very, very stinky, very, very greasy bone that I got for her, and she's only allowed to eat it on like a towel that I put down for her near the couch, but she likes to chew her bones on the couch. Yeah. And also to the Belarus majority not speaking Belarusian language, actually a lot of young people are now learning Belarusian language from their grandparents and great-grandparents, and most youth speaks Belarusian. The reason why Belarusians used to not really speak Belarusian language and didn't really know Belarusian language much is because it was forbidden by their dictatorship. The Russians have flash mob in Estonia for visa bans. Well, the funny thing is that pro-Russian Russians are going to be deported from Estonia anyway. So I'm happy that they're having a flash mob, because that way Estonia knows who are the pro-Russian Russians, and it's easier to it's easier to deport them. Sini, sit, God damn it, Sini, no, dude, literally, I'm sorry, I put a towel here for you so you have like a little place where you can eat this. Also, you're not gonna be eating your bone on top of like a white blanket that I put on our gray couch. Absolutely not. Have some respect, child. No, it's not a bully stick. It's a bone that's bigger than Cindy. It's like this big. Show Cindy, please. 1 sec. Okay, 1 sec. I'll show Cindy. Sinya! Wait, because I also have YouTube, so I need to be able to show it to both TikTok and YouTube. Sinya! 1 sec. Give me a moment. 1 moment. Well, there's Cindy's butt that you can see on YouTube. Cindy has a little Russian in her, I think. Sinya. No, Cindy. I am telling you, no. Hey, child, okay, now, here, yes. This is where you can eat. Yeah, the stereotypes in general are very infuriating, especially when they're Russian stereotypes. Cindy, you will be hearing from me if you bring your bone to my couch anytime again. Bad girl, Cindy. There's bad girl Riri, and then there's bad girl Cindy. There's bad girl Riri, and there's bad girl Cindy. Oh my gosh, makeup line, bad girl Cindy. Listen, I gotta remember that, because bad girl, I love that actually. Lauren, I love that. See you later. Oh my gosh, okay, here, 1 sec. Let me bring me back. I know that Cindy is much cuter, and Cindy is much more of a fan favorite. Not that I have fans, that's not what I'm implying. I'm just implying that, you know, Cindy has fans, if anything. Okay, so Novorossiyskaya Street, New Russian Street in translation, in Mariupol. After the Russian Federation came here, the name of the street fully reflects reality.
Прямо выложено. Пиши целое.
Sini? Yeah.
Вот переход насквозь. Украина. Насквозь. В этих домах вообще не сохранилось.
Hi, Poland.
Человека здесь нет, живет. Голуби. Только голуби.
Hi, Scott.
Хочу соцсети, то заслепит. Лучше тормоз, это вообще трэш.
It's a woman who's filming it. It's Mariupol. She's saying that these houses are absolutely unlivable and nobody lives in them, and there is no one, like, there is nothing left from these houses, from the entire block of apartments, and there is just pigeons there now. No people. Wait, sorry. Just pigeons, no people. Yeah, me too. Armed forces of Ukraine repelled attacks in Donbass in 4 directions. A new attempt to advance on the Dolina north of Slovyansk was repulsed. Near Bakhmut, the enemy attacked in the direction of Solodar and Kodema unsuccessfully. There were battles in the area of Pisky and Pervomansky, where the Russians tried to improve their tactical positions. They did not have success. A new attack on Pavlivka and Hladar was repulsed. The enemy was driven back. So, you know how I was saying that there are less updates these days? Because do you see how every time I read an update, Russians have an attack and it's repulsed and it's not successful? Therefore, there is way less updates, and actually way less updates indicate a very good picture, because that means that Ukraine is launching a successful counteroffensive. Now, we're going to start getting more updates as the offensive gets stronger and stronger, because then we're going to get more updates about Russians being basically destroyed. The head of the Luhansk Regional State Administration, Serhiy Haidai, confirmed the attack on the Wagner base in Popasna. The death toll is being specified, he said. The building is destroyed. Under the rubble are the bodies of the dead. Along with the personnel, uniforms and weapons were also damaged. Russian losses. A Wagner base was destroyed by Ukrainian forces. Ah, what a pretty picture. 361 children died as a result of the armed aggression of the Russian Federation in Ukraine. As of the morning of August 15th, more than 1,072 children suffered in Ukraine as a result of the full-scale armed aggression of the Russian Federation. 361 children died and more than 711 were injured of varying severity. Update on Ukraine from British intelligence as of August 15th, 2022. On 11th of August 2022, Russian media reported that Denis Pushilin, head of the so-called Donetsk People's Republic, had said that the date of the referendum of the DPR joining Russia will be announced after DPR's complete liberation. Previously, in June 2022, investigative journalists published evidence of a DPR planning strategy for running such a referendum and for ensuring that at least 70% of votes were in favor of joining Russia. It is likely that Russia is in the advanced planning stages to hold a referendum, though it is unclear if the final decision to go ahead with a vote has yet been taken. Yeah, no one actually knows anything that happened in Mariupol. The Kremlin will likely see the military's failure to occupy the entirety of the Donetsk Oblast thus far as a setback for its maximalist objectives in Ukraine. The invaders damaged the switchgear at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. The risk of radiation leakage and fire is high. As a result of the attack, emergency protection went off at one of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant units. As a result, one of the 3 operating power units is now offline, and that Adam reports. The shelling also seriously damaged the nitrogen-oxygen station, the combined auxiliary building, the pumping station for domestic wastewater, as well as the 750 kilowatt open switchgear. The invaders fired at the fire station located outside of the Zaporizhia NPP territory and designed to protect it from fires and extinguish them in case of emergencies at the plant. The risks of hydrogen leakage and radioactive spraying remain, and the fire hazard is also high, Energoatom added. So, I would say, I know that the world is very scared of what will happen on Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, but this is where, this is where the reason why Ukrainians don't want to join NATO anymore and why we think that it's a bullshit organization in large numbers and why we think that it's useless is because at this point, NATO said if there was a nuclear threat, they would join. Well, this is a nuclear threat. It's just not a nuclear weapon threat, but it is a nuclear threat. Ukraine is a nuclear country. It's just not a nuclear weapon country. But we have 5 nuclear power stations with, I believe, 14 reactors each, not including Chernobyl. 5 including Chernobyl, 14 reactors, not including Chernobyl. Apocalyptic footage of Kharkiv, destroyed houses in Nizhno-Sovka district from bird's eye view. Our journalist visited a micro-district where people no longer live. Since all the high-rise buildings there have been so damaged by shelling that they have become uninhabitable. Transport does not go to this area and shops do not work here, despite the fact that there were no strikes at Pivnishna Saltovka for almost 2 months. Video and maximum quality can be viewed in a YouTube video that I can link under this stream. Good afternoon, Natlin. Good afternoon, Marie. Sinya. It's Kharkiv, Saltivka. Okay, guys, 1 second. I'm gonna need to pause this and show you more in a second because Cindy is on the couch again. Sin, no, Cindy, no. I don't care. Come on, take your bone. Come on, off, Sin, off. No. Sin, Jesus Christ, no. Cindy, you have this specifically put for you here. I get it. Couch is better. I get it. It's much more comfortable, but no. Sorry. Hi, Mike. But here. Cindy just likes to be on the sofa. It's just her thing. That towel is already really gross, and she's not going to be sitting in the towel on the couch. She's going to be moving around. Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke at the Army 2022 forum and talked about the mythical victories of his army. We collected the main theses. In the course of the special military operation, the Russians allegedly fight for Russia for peaceful life in the LDNR. Russia has many allies and like-minded people on different continents. We tried to count one hand and 5 fingers were enough. Russia is ready to offer its allies and partners various weapons to have no analogs, cheat and sticks. Russia values its ties with the states of Latin America, Asia, and Africa because there are no others left. 2 bodies were taken. Cindy, sorry. Cindy, I swear. Okay, that's it. No, we're done. No. You're gonna get the bone later. Well, no. I'm sorry. Don't look at me like that. First of all, you ate that whole thing in less than 24 hours. Second of all, no. You're supposed to listen to me. Okay, so 2 bodies were taken away by volunteers immediately, but the third was not found. Another body of a murdered civilian was exhumed in the Kyiv region. The grave was found on the side of the highway near the village of Listavitsa, Bucha district, Kyiv region. Correspondent Ukraine Now talked to a relative of the deceased. He said that on February 28th, a husband with his wife, 2 children, and a grandmother went towards Kyiv to evacuate. But on the way, they were shot by the Russians. The driver, his wife, and a 17-year-old boy died instantly, and the invaders wounded a 5-year-old girl in the head. Her grandmother saved her. The bodies of the dead were left in the car. In early April, volunteers took away the bodies of a woman and a 17-year-old boy, and the body of the driver has been searched until today. It is unknown who buried him. At the scene of the tragedy, personal belongings of the family that were in the car are still scattered. The owner of PMC Wagner, Prigozhin, survived after the attack on the base in Popasna. New photos are published by Russian media. All enemy assault attempts were repulsed by Ukrainian soldiers. The summary of the General Staff for the evening of August 15th. Latvia handed over 2 Mi-17 and Mi-2 helicopters to Ukraine, Ministry of Defense of Latvia. The helicopters entered the Ukrainian Air Force partially disassembled. Before delivery, they were painted and 1 Mi-17 was overhauled. Support for Ukraine by Western countries should not stop until it liberates all of its territory from the Russian occupation forces, said Defense Minister Artis Pabriks. 2 more vessels entered the port of Odessa for Ukrainian products today. 2 ships, Sara and Ifi, entered the port to load Ukrainian agricultural products. Bulk carrier Sara will load 8,000 tons of corn, while the vessel Ifi will load about 7,500 tons of oil. This is the first tanker for vegetable oil. This was reported by the Ukrainian Seaports Administration. China announces regular sea and air exercises in Taiwan area after U.S. congressman visit. As conceived by the Chinese Ministry of Defense, the exercises should be a response against collusion and provocation by the United States and Taiwan, AP reports. Militias of the DPR announced the charges against 5 foreigners who fought on the side of Ukraine. In the dock, there were Swedish citizen Matthias Gustafsson, Croatian citizen Vyacheslav Pribeg, as well as British citizens John Harding, Andrew Hill, and Dylan Healy. 3 of them, Swede Gustafsson, Croat Pribeg, and Breton Harding, faced the death penalty. Also, speaking of putting people on trial. In Mariupol, in that Philharmonic that I posted about a little while ago, they're now making more preparations in order to publicly try in a show trial Ukrainian Azov defenders. So yeah, there is that going on, as well as all of these other atrocities. In Bucha, 14 unidentified people from the Vyshhorodsky and Boyarsky mortuaries were buried in the cemetery. Mostly these are corpses from mass graves, which are the most difficult to identify due to decomposition. Deputy Mayor of Bucha, Mikhailina Shkarovska, in a conversation with our journalist, said that most of the men and women buried today were killed with firearms. The decision to bury the unidentified was taken by the Kyiv prosecutor's office and the administration, since the identification had been going on since April. 458 bodies were collected on the territory of the Bucha community. The death of 419 is related to military operations. Of the 200 unidentified bodies, most were identified and buried under their names. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres talked about the situation around the Zaporizhzhia NPP with the head of the Russian Defense Ministry, Sergei Shoigu. According to Russian media, the parties discussed the condition for the safe operation of nuclear power plants. It is also reported that Shoigu and Guterres exchanged views on the situation with the death of Ukrainian prisoners of war in the pre-trial detention center in Olenivka, and on the procedure for simplifying the export of Russian food and fertilizer. The UN said today they're ready to facilitate the trip of IAEA experts to the Zaporizhzhia NPP through Ukraine if the Russian Federation and official Kyiv agree to this. We've agreed to this. We've asked for this. Mikhailo Podolyak tweeted, the Russians inflicted more than 22,000 strikes on civilian targets in Ukraine, and only 300 strikes were on the military. Podolyak, special operation, demilitarization, no. Banal destruction of infrastructure and terror against the population, wrote the advisor to the head of the presidential office. Israel fired missiles yesterday near a Russian military base in Syria, Reuters citing sources. According to them, several missile strikes hit Iranian military facilities, a radar station and an air defense post near the port of Tartus. This port is the main base of the Russian Navy in Syria. There is the 720th point of logistics of the Russian Navy. And this is all of the updates that I have for today. Let me scroll through. Ukraine again urges civilian evacuation from Russian-occupied parts of Kherson. Latvian president supports banning tourist visas for Russians. Poland developing solution to deny visas to Russians. Slovakia denies transferring MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine. According to Slovak Defense Minister Jaroslav Nad, the jets will remain in Slovakia until the end of August. Previously, media reported that the jets had already been supplied. Heroyam Slava. Ukrainian troops hit a major bridge near Kherson again, and that's a bridge. And we also attacked a railway bridge in a railway bridge and a bridge near Novokakhovka. Ex-mayor charged with collaboration with Russia and Kharkiv Oblast. 42 countries urge Russia to withdraw troops from Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Latvia preparing Bild to limit Russian language. If you didn't know, then the Baltics are struggling really hard from Russian colonization because there are way too many Russians living there, and Russians are literally making Latvians, Lithuanians, and Estonians speak Russian to them instead of learning Latvian, Lithuanian, or Estonian. Russian media say Ukraine military destroyed Wagner group base in occupied Popasna. So, wow, they admit to it. Parliament of Ukraine appoints anti-corruption crusader to top judicial body amid botched reform. After the ongoing judicial reform was marred by several scandals, Verkhovna Rada on August 15th appointed 2 lawyers to the judiciary's main body, the High Council of Justice. Anti-corruption watchdogs say both meet the ethics and integrity standards required for the job. Okay, so that is all of the news that I have for today. I need to run because I need to pick up my medication from a pharmacy that's super far away on Upper East Side, because that's the only pharmacy that makes my medication. And I need to go do that because I ran out of it, and basically today was my last day of me having that medication. And I will see you guys later tonight. I'm sure there's going to be some more news coming out of Ukraine, but hopefully good news. And thank you everybody for being on the stream.